What's the most insane way you've ever seen someone rage in traffic? I'd had my license for all of 3 weeks and thought I was finally getting the hang of driving. I wasn't weaving, I wasn't speeding, I wasn't even blasting music too loud. Then I rolled up to this intersection where the sun hit my windshield at just the wrong angle, and out of the corner of my eye, I swore I saw a stop sign. So what do? Slam the brakes. At a green light, during rush hour. The screech of my tires was immediately drowned out by the angriest honk I've ever heard. I checked my rearview mirror, and behind me was a black pickup truck vibrating from how hard the guy was leaning on his horn. His headlights were flashing like a rave, and I could see him screaming inside his cab, face bright red, veins bulging. Before I could even think, his door flew open. Out stepped a 6-foot-something dude in a neon construction vest, stomping toward me like he'd been waiting his whole life for this moment. Phones started coming out of other cars. I was gripping my steering wheel so hard my fingers hurt. He stormed up to my window and started pounding on it with his fist. "You're gonna kill somebody! Who stops at a green light?" His voice was so loud, I heard every word through the glass. I tried shrinking into my seat like that would make me invisible. Then it got worse. He walked around to the front of my car and started beating on my hood with both hands like it was a drum set. The entire car shook with every hit, my brain screaming he's going to dent it. But before I can react, he grabs my door handle and yanks on it, yelling, "Get out! I'll teach you how to drive properly." At this point, I'm seconds from tears. This is not what driver's ed prepared me for. The lane next to me was now completely stopped. Everyone watching like this was live entertainment. A woman in a minivan rolled down her window and yelled, "Leave the kid alone!" which of course only made him angrier. He spun around and started yelling at her, arms flailing like an air dancer outside a car wash. That's when I spotted Salvation, flashing red and blue lights pulling up behind his abandoned truck, which was still parked in the middle of the intersection with the door wide open. The police cruiser slid to a stop, and the guy's whole body language changed. One second, he was Hulk. The next, he looked like he'd just gotten caught shoplifting gum. He froze mid-yell, face draining from tomato red to paper white. The officer stepped out, calm as if he'd just walked into a Starbucks. Pickup guy immediately spun around, pointing at me like he was tattling in kindergarten. He started ranting about how I was dangerous, how I slammed on the brakes, how he was just trying to protect the public. His voice kept getting higher and more desperate, like he could argue his way out of what everyone just saw. The cop listened politely for about 30 seconds, then walked over to my car. I rolled down my window with shaky hands. "You okay?" he asked. I explained the sun glare, the phantom stop sign, the panic braking. He nodded and said, "Happens. Just be careful next time." Then he turned back to the guy, who was still rambling about civic duty. The cop let him finish, then calmly said, "Sir, turn around and put your hands behind your back." The look on the guy's face was priceless. Total disbelief. "Wait, me? You're arresting me?" I was trying to help, but the officer was already pulling out the handcuffs. As they walked him to the cruiser, the guy shouted over his shoulder about entrapment, lawsuits, how he was going to own this whole city. The cop had to duck his head down to fit him in the back seat while he kept yelling about justice. I was still sitting at the green light like a statue, watching the whole circus. Drivers in the next lane were laughing, phones still recording. Someone even clapped when the cuffs clicked shut. By the time the tow truck came 20 minutes later to haul off his abandoned pickup, I was finally starting to breathe again. Guess road rage costs a lot more than defensive driving school.